Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Polaris, Fatalism, out September 1st on Sharptone Records. This album has 11 tracks, 46 minutes in length, and this is the band's third full-length studio album. They are an Australian metalcore band. From a design point of view, I feel like this is an incredibly intelligently crafted album. And I say this because of the experience that it offers. It's an album that feels balanced, that feels cohesive, but it also feels very dynamic and very chaotic at the exact same time. The way they achieve this is by giving you a baseline of aggression and intensity from start to end that allows you to always see this album as an outgoing album. It's not holding anything in, it's not keeping its emotions bottled up, it's rather putting everything in the forefront. Everything is at the surface, all the emotions, everything that comes with it, and that allows the record from one standpoint to feel a lot more natural and a lot more organic. How they balance that out is by including some more introspective pieces, some more melancholic pieces, but not as songs, as moments within songs. If they were songs, I think you break the fluidity of the record. You go from this intensity, you're going from this movement to suddenly a complete stop, and that becomes a little bit harder to digest, and it forces the listener to re-engage with the album constantly. By using them as pockets, as pieces of a puzzle, the fluidity doesn't break, the fluidity doesn't stop. Perhaps it slows down, it allows the album to breathe better at times, and it allows the listener to always stay connected with the overall idea that this record puts forward. This allows the album to have not just great sound, but a better design altogether. Because you can have these songs, you can have these elements, but you still need to know where to put them within the track listing so that the pockets, the breaks, the opportunities for you to breathe, the opportunities for the album to breathe come at the right time, not hurting the flow of the album, but rather enhancing it. And obviously this has an impact, or the sound has an impact on this design. And this is not an album where they decided to throw away everything that they've done before and reinvent themselves as a band. I actually feel like this is a record where they've taken everything from the two previous albums and they just better define it what they wanted from it. Either be the guitar sound, the electronic elements, some of the atmospheric pieces that they have, really little nuances of post-rock. So regardless of which element you're looking at, this album is Polaris through and through. It's just Polaris taken all the way to 11. I just felt like they knew exactly what got them to this point, what is their sound, but now how can we enhance that experience and create an album that instead of looking on the inside, it takes everything and points it towards the outside. This allows certain pieces and allows certain moments within the overall soundscape to be so much bigger, so much better, so much brighter, even though the aggression and the darkness that underlines it, it's still there and it's not taken away. And you look at the guitar sound, for example, the guitars on this album are phenomenal from start to end. The energy that they pack, how thick they are at times, then they're driven, then they're more melodic, then they're more melancholic, then they're back to being heavy again, offering a lot of different nuances, never staying still within tracks and from track to track, but always with a very rich soundscape, always with a very rich output, allowing the album to take richness from that guitar sound and then spread it out across everything that it puts on the table, including the drums and the electronic elements. The electronic elements, for example, on this record didn't feel too much in the forefront. And I think this is an important element as well. It allows the guitars to be a little bit more centric. It allows the guitars to be a little bit more of the driving force of the entire record and have the electronic elements there to compensate for some gaps and to enhance the ability for you to better understand where the songs are coming from musically, lyrically, and then emotionally, and connect better with them. It almost feels just like an add-on and not necessarily the element that stands out in the crowd. That combination of allowing the guitars a little bit more room up front, moving the electronic elements a little bit more further back, also gave incredible quality to the overall sound experience on this album. The drums also feel a little bit looser. They're not as tied down. They feel warmer, they have more depth, they have more impact. Heavy at times, really heavy at times, but always knowing exactly what the boundaries are and reaching that boundary and then bouncing back again, having a little bit of a box to work with, but a box that's not necessarily boxing you in. It's just knowing your parameters and just knowing your limits of how far you can take those drums without having an impact on how driven and how centric the overall guitar sound is. The bass sounds great on this album too. It doesn't pop a lot, but when it does, it always has a very immediate impact, perhaps more so on the atmosphere, on the vibe, on the mood of the song than unnecessarily on how the sound is driven or how the sound is moving. But everything has its place. It's a really well produced album as well, and I think you need that in order to convey the message that they're trying to convey, which is this is what Polaris has always been. We're just crafting our sound in a more engineered way, in a more mature way, so that we can tell more with the same things that we've been working with before. This is the prototypical doing more with the same, not necessarily with less, but with the same. And this album comes across from that point of view very well designed, very well crafted, very well executed, and very complete. This is a complete album as far as the length of the record, the amount of songs, the design, the lyrical content, the experience, the vocal performance. Everything about this album feels together. The vocals are perhaps one of the most dynamic experience that this album has, even in songs that feel very linear from start to finish. The vocals come in with some layers, always the change between the cleans and harsh, but a change that's not necessarily following patterns or following previous ideas. I felt like they were also more organic and going more with the vibe of the song, of the lyrics, of the emotion, and trying to portray that emotion in as a vivid way as possible. So when you put all of these pieces together, you have Polaris's best record. I have no doubts about that. I feel like this is an album that becomes the culmination of the previous work. They took, like I said earlier, the best of everything that they've done. They understood better who they are as a band, what do they want from themselves as a band, and then they took it and they crafted it and they pushed that knob all the way to 11, and that is Fatalism. As far as favorite songs are concerned, that is a hard one. You can close your eyes and pick any track on this album. There's not a bad song to be had. But the ones that jumped at me the first time that I went through it, definitely starting off with Parasite. That song was immediately, for me, a track that I couldn't live without. It has to go on a playlist. It has to stay on high rotation because it has great energy. It has a more electronic opening, and it may give you the sensation that, oh, this is going to go in a very electronic vibe. It doesn't, but that electronic sound stays as an underlying element for the rest of the track, or at least popping in here and there throughout the track, but still staying there. There's an aroma of it throughout the sound of this song, and this allows the guitars to be a little bit more intensive. It allows the guitars to regain the focus of the track, and for the song and all eyes to be on that guitar sound and the performance that they provide. The vocals are very dynamic, allowing heaviness to be built around them. Heavy breakdown within this song. The vocals and lyrics match always the momentum of the track, the sound, and how the vocal performance comes together. They're always tied up with one another, with that intensity, with that energy, with that organic vibe, with that emotional vibe that the songs have. Something that this band does really well, and I felt like on this album they were able to be emotional, but perhaps not lose track of where that emotion can take you. This song is a perfect example of that. It feels very raw, very emotional, but at the same time it feels like it doesn't lose control of itself. An important element in order for the songs to become the best that they can be. Next we have With Regards. I think this is perhaps one of the most sorrow or one of the most introspective songs of this record. I felt like this album was more looking outwards than it is looking on the inside, but this song kind of reverts those roles. At least there's moments within this song. I would say the chorus. The chorus is more introspective. The verses are more outgoing. The verses are more the exteriorization of how you're feeling on the inside, and the chorus is a little bit more you and your thoughts alone, talking about how you're feeling on the inside. So it's a very interesting track from that perspective, and those melancholic pockets that this song has are important in the overall design of the record, more so than in the design of the song itself. But these pockets, in a song that still has a lot of heaviness, in a song that still depends heavily on the drums and guitars to create heaviness, to create movement, to create intensity, to create aggression, you really have this sense of going up and down this emotional roller coaster ride of a song from start to end. And then towards the end, the track gets a little bit more meaty. You feel the brunt of the bass, you feel the brunt of the drums, you feel the brunt of the guitars, you feel the brunt of vocals, and then it starts to move away from that. After that jolt, it moves away from that in order to close almost in the same fashion as it started. A track that feels like maybe perhaps not, doesn't go full circle, but very close to it. Last but definitely not least, the Crossfire. Great guitar sounding song, heavy, melodic. The vocals are super layered on this track, and that layer of vocals really adds volume. It adds consistency to the performance, and also adds consistency to the overall soundscape, bringing a little bit more hardcore moments at times, but at the nuts and bolts of this track, it's really a metalcore song at heart. Vocally, sound-wise, from a construction standpoint, how it moves, how it impacts, the ability to mix aggression, heaviness, and melancholy and melody together perfectly, creating the right ebbs and flows, the right nuances, not abrupt, not jolting you, just transporting you easily through all of these different pieces, allows this to be like I said, that metalcore track with a lot of metalcore elements, the prototypical style, the prototypical design, perhaps the meat and potatoes of what Polaris has always been, really well defined in one single track. This is it, Polaris with Fatalism, out September 1st on Sharptone Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.